our Dharma auntie here from Empty Field Zen West to talk to us about feeding a ghost. This is inspired by the day that we spent yesterday with the celebration of Sajiki, which Seido will be telling us all about. So thank you so much for coming and for sharing your Dharma with us. Seido, take it away.
Homage to the Buddha, homage to the Dharma, homage to the Sangha. Does this sound okay? Great. Always checking. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. I haven't seen some of you in a while, and also see some new faces who I don't know yet. And several of you who were last night out in a field shouting and welcoming in the hungry ghosts and feeding them with treats and delight right at this time. So it's nice to be here and reflect on what we did. Yeah, I'd say I'm not sure I'll accomplish everything you asked there, Mushin. We'll give it a try. I was thinking of a koan, a warm-up koan actually, when I realized I would do this talk tonight, called Save a Ghost. It's a warm-up koan given to students to sit with, just those 3 words, save a ghost, and speaks a little bit to our experience yesterday. Of course, it was really beautiful to perform this Sajiki ceremony together, 15 of us last night in the empty field, basically welcoming in all this disturbed energy in the world. One way to think of it, things that are unresolved, ill at ease, forgotten karma, opening up to this on so many levels, and giving this energy, these hungry ghosts offerings, giving them kindness. I want to actually speak about this ceremony a little differently tonight. It's a ceremony that we can understand as basically medicine for our own hearts, medicine for our own hearts, and one that gives us one of the most important qualities we need to practice, which is courage, medicine for the heart and courage. So that we can return ourselves moment after moment to the state of being truly alive, to be present and to release the constriction formed by our karmic past, individually, collectively, before we were born, and become truly human. We say in Zen, to become a real person. So I want to read this poem. I was on vacation this last week and had taken with me Jane Hirschfield's collection, The Lives of the Heart. And there's a poem I randomly opened to that speaks to this condition we humans fall into naturally, inevitably, and that she just speaks of so beautifully and tenderly about what happens to our heart as we go through life and face difficulties. It's called The New Silence. And I'm running out of light here, so I hope I can see it. There are times when the heart closes down, the metal grate drawn and padlocked, the owner's footprints covered by snow. Someone may come to peer through the glass, but soon leaves. Someone may come to clean, but turns away. What is still inside settles down for the darkness. Clocks stop. Newspapers pass out of date. The new silence goes unheard under so many grindings of engines, so many sounds of construction. Only the 3 pigeons refusing to eat lower their heads and grieve. Beautiful. I was moved by her description of that padlocked heart and our quest in practice to return to our most natural state, to open up to the awake and sensitive and responsive, heartful way of meeting the world, moment after moment. So I'll return to this Sajiki practice that we do every year, which is welcoming the ghosts that often drove those hearts underground. And in this sense, we can understand a ghost as a kind of a psychic energy that is out of harmony with the way things are, out of harmony with the present moment, a field of disturbance, something that feels stuck in time. Clocks stop, newspapers fall out of date. And these ghosts that arrive in our human experience in all forms, they seem to come unbidden and have a life of their own, and sometimes feel threatening. So when given a koan, save a ghost, and yesterday we practiced a little bit of that to just see what was stirring as we relaxed together and met each other, to see who arrives unbidden. An old family relationship, a long lost friend, someone who passed, a lonely child, or perhaps the shadows of war, or our cultural greed, or our racist past. These are the ghosts that arrive when we begin to sit deeply and turn our attention inward to our human lives. My home temple, Dharma Rain Zen Center, has a wonderful children's program that's revered throughout the country, curriculum, and a wonderful program for kids through high school. But that program began from the meeting of a ghost, which was Gyokoko, one of the abbess, the former abbess, in her youth, when she was starting that temple, began to sit. And in Zazen, she noticed that a small child began to arrive. And slowly that small child, day after day, came into her lap until she really raised it up. And it's out of that experience that she began to gather together and form a program at Dharma Rain that year after year took off and became this beautiful expression, all because of that one experience of inviting that ghost into her Zazen period. So I come back to the title, really, is the feeding of the ghost, the feeding of the ghost. I'm remembering a teaching that my teacher Kyogen gave often about 4 kinds of giving, 4 kinds of gifts. And they are in order. The first gift, which we're all familiar with, is to give something that we want for ourselves. We do it quite often, but that's not always the best gift, right? The second kind of gift is to give the other what they want. And in the case of Sajiki, we actually are called to give the ghost something that usually we don't want, which is junk food. We were supposed to have an altar filled with like Twinkies and Fritos and voodoo donuts. But actually, I joked, is that at our Sajikis, we seem to be mixed up on step 1 and 2. And so what our ghosts end up getting is organic low sugar chocolate and homemade muffins with nuts and almond flour and other things that we want for ourselves, because guess who eats them? Anyway, the theme is there. So we give the ghosts what they recognize as food, junk food, right? Because it satisfies and it's an expression of kindness. But the third kind of giving is to give something that is truly good, something that is truly good. In the case of hungry ghosts, perhaps that might be love, being seen. But the highest kind of giving is this, And I think it's the import of the Sajiki ceremony is to give the gift of fearlessness. That's something that is given both to giver and receiver equally. So that the ghosts who come in, they are brought in this ceremony with this huge raucous cacophony of sound and welcome and mirth mixed with gravitas. And we give them the gift of fearlessness. We're not afraid. Come. And that fearlessness comes out of our Zazen practice, our presence, our alignment with the truth, and capacity to be with the unknown. So we attune to these ghosts. We're attuning to them. We give them an offering, but that's not the end of the story. We're bringing them into a space within which they can transform. And it takes patience and readiness. We see through these ghosts that first appears scary, right? Our inner ghosts are what haunts us appears scary. But when we really investigate, we see that they are scared. So I'm reminded of a time I worked with a client, a part-time farmer, part-time psychotherapist. And she was really struggling with an inner critic who was vicious. We all have them, but this inner critic really ripped her to shreds all the time. And as we got to know this ghost, we could call it, from her past, we began to discover something from it, which was that it wanted to do that so that no one else could get to her first, like in the past. It was going to rip her to shreds before anyone else could, and it was a sense of control. At least I'm doing it to myself, not these other people. And when we could see into that, all of a sudden the heart opened to this poor, scared inner critic. And that critic began to transform permanently through that energy. Was scared. We work with this fear in Sajiki when we come together. What are we really afraid of, actually? What are we afraid of in the old regrets and fears? It's usually a misunderstanding that we can actually not tolerate it, that we are not a larger space within which it can be held. And that somehow meeting these energies will upset the order we've become used to. But the truth is that order is a disorder. We need to encounter and turn towards what we fear and practice. That's where we grow. I was thankful yesterday, there was so much wise sharing. One person reminded me of, and I looked it up today, the myth, or the legend myth, yeah, of Perseus and Medusa. And it went that when Perseus went to slay Medusa with the snakes out of her head, and she was, if you looked at Medusa, you would turn to stone. You could not look directly at her. So when Perseus went to slay her, to cut off her head, actually, which has another backstory. But anyway, he had to do that. He was given a mirror on his shield by Athena, so that he approached Medusa in her sleep and looked at her from the mirror on her shield, on his shield. And that came up as an image last night, because sometimes we are so afraid we will be killed by what we look at. We will be destroyed in some way. But it's turning towards, it's Zazen, the mirror-like wisdom that is capable of holding everything equally without being afraid. It's a wonderful image. The courage comes from Zazen, and each of us practice this mirror-like wisdom that is still and silent and holding, not shuttered, not picking and choosing, is completely receiving, completely acceptant. And a bit cool, actually. There's an equanimity to that mirror. I was reminded of a friendly ghost, actually, as I was just writing this talk earlier. And it was a dream I had before my teacher died. And in it, an old man came to me who said he was sick and dying. And I was saddened. And he wasn't Kyogen in the dream, but in real life, I can see he was. And he took me down a hallway, and he said he wanted to give me something. And I could have anything that I wanted. And we ended up in front of this beautiful, ornate mirror. And he took it down the wall, off the wall, and gave it to me. It's a beautiful gift, well before there was any sign that Kyogen was ill. This mirror-like wisdom is something that we are naturally endowed with. And it's the equanimity of that wisdom that then allows our hearts to unpadlock, if we want to use the words from the poem, to unshudder, to arrive again and be ready and willing. So I offer that in closing for all of you who have partook of this yearly ceremony to invite that koan, occasionally save a ghost, onto the cushion and trust that whoever arrives is who needs to arrive, and to rely on the courage of that we are a larger space within which these energies can resolve and release. Their quality is constriction, but our quality is spaciousness. And we are patient. And the courage has a patience and a waiting. Like a Gyokoko, we need these ghosts. They are energies that are disconnected, but ultimately belonging to the whole human psyche, the whole universe. So in the end, when the koan, save a ghost, is resolved, it's unclear who is saving who is saved by who. These ghosts come to liberate our heart. They come to peer through the glass. They come to clean this save a ghost. And this new silence isn't the silence Jane Hirschfield talked about of what's been muffled or buried. The new silence is all inclusive and loving, and the heart can naturally come forward from that space. So may you be blessed with several life-giving ghosts throughout your practice life to save you, and in the same way that we vow to save all beings. So, thank you.